Now, let's get down to why we're all here today. This is week 4, of 5 talks about living in the now. That now that we've all heard about what and where it is, how to get there, and why it's so vitally important to our spiritual development. So let's dive into week 4 about the now. And I love that I get to say the same word back to back during these talks and still have it make sense. Last Monday, when I set about getting the tiles together for the sign, the one out front, I decided on the title, How About Now? Not because it's a catchphrase from the old Verizon commercials. Can you hear me now? TV watchers, tell me, are they still running commercials like that? Is that still their thing? No, not yet. It's been a while. Well, the reason I chose that title is because of one specific word. How. We've talked about how to stop living in our minds, living in the past or imagining the future and trying to find some sort of control within those two places, a control which, try as we might, we won't ever have. Since we're not the authors of our lives. That's God's job. We've talked about the fact that, well, the Lord said, let there be light. And it was bright. We have talked about the fact that the only true living we've ever done, and the only true living we will ever do, is in the present moment. We cannot change the past, and we definitely can't know what the future holds. We have only each moment to live. But how do we live like that? I mean, it would be lovely to simply sit in the present and allow others to make sure that we're clean and fed and clothed and housed, right? But is that the reality of life for most people? At least our grown-up selves? No. So how? How do we find this now and stay in it while also getting the stuff done that we've committed to doing? How about now? Most of you know that my family and I went camping in Idlewild the week before last. And if you were here Sunday before we left, you'll remember that I said I was looking for a specific book for that talk. Buddha's Standard Time by Lama Surya Das. And I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere. And you will not believe where and when it turned up. I was packing for that camping trip, and I picked up a bandana from my nightstand to put in my bag, and there it was. That bandana, I swear it wasn't there before that. Granted, my nightstand is pretty cluttered, but I know it wasn't there when I set it down. So it went into my suitcase, and I would read it as I sat in my special mosquito-free zone. As I said last week, there were no Sasquatches there this time, but there were lots and lots and lots of skeeters, so I would go into the tent and I'd unzip all the flaps so I could enjoy the outdoors from indoors. And on the first day, I read this bit in the introduction to the book from early 16th century poet Liu Wenmin. To be able to be unhurried when hurried. To be able to not slack off when relaxed. To be able not to be frightened and at a loss for what to do when frightened and at a loss. This is the learning that returns us to our natural state and transforms our lives. But how to do all of that, right? For eons, people have been grappling with the concept of time. From Sophocles to Benjamin Franklin to Einstein to Mick Jagger, the wisdom has been passed down to us. Time is the stuff life is made of. Time is money. Time is of the essence. Time flies. Time is on our side. Time is a cruel thief. We measure time. We lose time. We kill time. We are strapped for time. And we're very familiar with that last one these days, right? The world is so full of so much activity and so much need and want and hurry that there never seems to be enough time to do anything. Don't get me wrong, I think we are living in an amazing age, and it seems as fantastic and futuristic as anything out of the Star Trek and Jetsons episodes I grew up with. Young people, look them up. They're worth watching. I love being able to interact with people from all over the world and download a book or play any song with just the tap of a button. But how do we disconnect from this instant fix pace we've adapted to and find some peace and quiet? Because when we're not on our various devices, talking, watching, listening, playing, or any number of other aims, the moment the world around us sees our hands free and our eyes snapping out of virtual reality and making contact with actual reality, suddenly they all need us, right? And we've become used to trying to accommodate all of those needs of others, only to end up exhausted and wanting to turn our eyes back to the screen just to get a break. And that last sentence there was an eye-opener for me. And I knew my husband was waiting for this, weren't you? You didn't know I was going to call myself out. I'm calling myself out. When I am not on my devices, I am generally right in the moment. Often, and I know y'all can back this up, often so much in the moment that I lose track of stuff because it was there when I used it last, but I wasn't paying attention to where I left it because it wasn't necessary after that, right? And you might not think it, but people turn to their ministers when they're feeling unclear about stuff going on in their lives. And I absolutely love that part of my work. But I realized, and I've got to be completely transparent with you all, as soon as I get some time to myself, the first thing I usually do to unwind is put on my earbuds, turn on some music or a book, and play a mindless game. And while I'm playing that game, I'm entirely inside my mind, thinking about mundane stuff or daydreaming, trying to figure out what I'm going to talk about next, what songs we're going to sing in church. Church takes up a big amount of my brain, and I enjoy that, but it runs through my mind while I'm ignoring. I shut out the noise of the world and create the special kind of inner noise that I've thought of for so long as comfort. I've often felt that playing some redundant, simple game was a way to help me focus. Because if you've been around me for more than a few minutes in a normal setting, you may have noticed that I am very, very, very easily distracted. But is the game helping me focus so I can pay attention to my thoughts, or is it something else? I realized while writing this that it's definitely something else. It's distraction. It's a false sense of peace. Can anyone else relate to that? Yeah? So it's true that I can be just as disconnected from reality as anybody else, but I can also become connected easily. And it's taken me a lot of self-reflection to come up with the how of that. I somehow gained that ability to pop in and out of the now, but I wasn't paying attention to what I did to get to where I was doing it. And that's the hardest part of living in the now. You can't carry it into the then. Something gets lost in the translation sometimes. But it seems one of the main obstacles to making peace with time is that we tend to experience it linearly. We keep moving forward, doing and accomplishing things rather than just being. But we are human beings, not human doings. And it takes so much away from us when we live only on the linear axis of time. But how? 2,500 years ago, Gautama Buddha said that if we directly perceived the actual difficulties and sorrows of life, we'd practice to achieve enlightenment, and I quote, as if our hair was on fire. A very simplified definition of enlightenment is the deep flash of awakening to the knowledge that we are much more than our time and space-bound material selves living in a material world. Let go of the past, the Buddha said. Let go of the future and let go of what is in between, transcending the things of time. With your mind free in every direction, you will not turn to birth and aging. When we're in touch with being only in the present moment, only with what is instead of what we regret, fear, or anticipate, our sense of limits in time will no longer have any negative power in our lives. This is ancient, timeless wisdom. People have been writing about living in the present moment as far back as the pharaoh Akhenaten. Did I say it right? Akhenaten. He was in the 14th century BC. What does that mean, BC? Before Christ was around, right? He wrote, "He who neglects the present moment throws away all he has." And let's look again at our inspirational reading from this morning from the book of Proverbs, chapter 2. Incline your heart to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding. Yea, if you cry after knowledge and lift up your voice to understanding, if you seek it as silver and search for it as hidden treasure, then you will understand how to worship the Lord and find the knowledge of God. When wisdom enters into your heart and knowledge is pleasant to your soul, intelligence shall preserve you and the understanding of the pious shall deliver you. If that last line doesn't sum up the now beautifully, I don't know what does. When wisdom enters into your heart and knowledge is pleasant to your soul, intelligence shall preserve you and the understanding of the pious shall deliver you. Do we find wisdom in the past? No. We find learning, yes. Perhaps we find clarity when it comes to discerning the whys of events in our lives, but wisdom? No. Do we find wisdom in the future? Who knows? It hasn't happened yet. And we won't know it's happening until we get there because it'll be the present. The future will never arrive. Try as we might to find and experience it. And here is where I give you a big old key for the door to hell. So if you're going to remember anything from today's talk, you can immediately apply. This is the soundbite you're going to want to commit to memory. Whatever you're doing at any moment, do only that. According to Lama Surya Das, the Buddha would say, if you're planning ahead, just plan ahead. If you're remembering, just remember. We can look forward or back without fretting or obsessing or allowing concerns about the future to constrict freedom in the present. Think about it. Even contemplating the future or past is a function of present awareness. We can always choose how to respond, what to do, how to live. We always have time to take a breath and begin again, revitalized, awake, and aware. At any moment, you can start doing now, and only now. We've looked at several sources of wisdom today, from Lama Surya Das, Gautama Buddha, the book of Proverbs, and I'd like to reintroduce you to one you may not have imagined would be relevant. And I'm confident that everyone here today, regardless of age, has heard of this sage wise being. I speak of none other than the venerable Master Pooh, or Winnie the Pooh, as he's popularly known. I think my favorite part of Benjamin Hoff's The Tao of Pooh is in the foreword. "What's that you're writing?" asked Pooh, climbing onto the writing table. "The Tao of Pooh," I replied. "The how of Pooh?" asked Pooh, smudging one of the words I'd just written. "The Tao of Pooh," I replied, poking his paw away with my pencil. "It seems more like the owl of Pooh," said Pooh, rubbing his paw. "Well, it's not," I replied huffily. "What's it about?" asked Pooh, leaning forward and smearing another word. "It's about how to stay happy and calm under all circumstances," I yelled. "Have you read it?" asked Pooh. That was after some of us were discussing the great masters of wisdom, and someone was saying how all of them came from the East. And I was saying that some of them didn't, but he was going on and on, just like this sentence, not paying any attention, when I decided to read a quotation of wisdom from the West to prove that there was more to the world than one half. And I read, "When you wake up in the morning, Pooh," said Piglet at last, "what's the first thing you say to yourself?" "What's for breakfast?" said Pooh. "What do you say, Piglet?" "I say, I wonder what's going to happen exciting today," said Piglet. Pooh nodded thoughtfully. "It's the same thing," he said. "What's that?" the unbeliever asked. "Wisdom from a Western Taoist," I said. "It sounds like something from Winnie the Pooh," he said. "It is," I said. "That's not about Taoism," he said. "Oh, yes, it is," I said. "No, it's not," he said. "What do you think it's about?" I said. "It's about this dumpy little bear that wanders around asking silly questions, making up songs, and going through all kinds of adventures without ever accumulating any amount of intellectual knowledge or losing his simple-minded sort of happiness. That's what it's about," he said. "Same thing," I said. Isn't that perfect? The answer, of course, is yes, because perfection is all there is. But of course I'd say that. I've been reading the teachings of Master Pooh and those teachings about Taoism, but moving forward, we're going to call it Nowism. The Tao is now, because in the words of Pooh, same thing. And here's where I want you to pay attention. On page 141, Hoff writes, "Where are we going?" said Pooh, hurrying after him and wondering whether it was to be an explorer or what shall I do about you-know-what. "Nowhere," said Christopher Robin. So they began going there, and after they'd walked a little way, Christopher Robin said, "What do you like doing best in the world, Pooh?" And of course, what Pooh liked doing best was going to Christopher Robin's house and eating. "I like that too," Christopher Robin said, "but what I like doing best is nothing." "How do you do nothing?" asked Pooh after he had wondered for a long time. "Well, it's when people call out at you just as you're going off to do it. 'What are you going to do, Christopher Robin?' And you say, 'Oh, nothing,' and then you go and do it." "Oh, I see," said Pooh. "This is a nothing sort of thing that we're doing right now." "Oh, I see," said Pooh again. "It means just going along, listening to all the things you can't hear and not bothering." Chuang Tzu described it this way, and remember, the Tao is now. Consciousness wandered north to the land of the dark waters and climbed the unnoticeable slope where he met speechless non-doer. "I have 3 questions for you," consciousness said. "First, what thoughts and efforts will lead us to understanding the now? Second, where must we go and what must we do to find peace in the now? Third, from what point must we start and which road must we follow in order to reach the now? Speechless non-doer gave him no answer. Consciousness traveled south to the land of the bright ocean and climbed the mountain of certainty, where he saw impulsive speech maker. He asked him the same questions. Here are the answers, impulsive speech maker replied, but as soon as he started to speak, he became confused and forgot what he was talking about. Consciousness returned to the palace and asked the yellow emperor, who told him to have no thought and put forth no effort is the first step to understanding the now. To go nowhere and do nothing is the first step toward finding peace in the now. To start from no point and follow no road is the first step toward reaching the now. What Chuang Tzu and Christopher Robin and Pu are describing is the great secret, the key that unlocks the doors of wisdom, happiness, and truth. And what is that mysterious something? Nothing. To the nowist, nothing is something, and something, at least the sort of thing that many consider to be important, is really nothing at all. No, my friends, I am not saying that nothing is important. I'm saying that nothing is important. Do only that which you are doing. Immerse yourself fully into whatever it is. No thoughts, no distractions, no undercurrent of emotion. Just do what it is you're doing. That is how to exist in this hurried, frenetic world of time and stress without becoming frenetic about time and stressed. That's how to be in the now, right now, and now. And now, I'd very much like if you would do a teeny tiny little bit of homework for me sometime today. And if you find that you like it, I'd very much like it if you did some more. And if that goes well and you're enjoying it, please do some more. No, I won't be checking your homework. It's all for you, and only you will know whether or not you learned from it. There are choices involved, but none of it really matters. Not really. And this is what today's assignment is. Choose a time when you're going to eat and just eat. No background noise, no thoughts, no TV, no watching what's happening around you or observing anything outside of you and the food. Taste the flavors, see the colors, feel the textures, close your eyes if it helps, and really, perhaps for the first time in a great long while, explore all that happens within your senses when you only eat. I think you'll find it's quite wonderful. And if you do find it wonderful, just do something else. Nothing more, just the thing. Perhaps it's folding laundry, one of my least favorite things, or walking. That's one of my most favorite just do things. Or playing with a beloved pet. Anything. It doesn't matter what. Only do that thing and explore what now really is. And if you find that suddenly there's a strange foreign feeling you can't quite put your finger on, I can tell you what it's called. It's called peace. And it's only here, only now, right where it's always been and right where it will always be. Thank you.